What if I go in and have my blood work looked at and it's actually not normal? Like I feel normal, but my blood work is not normal. Is that something that can happen? Is that real? Like everything looks normal.
This happens every single day. And I'm going to take a little bit of time to dig into this one because that is one of the things a person comes to me and says, I feel good, and I do their blood work and I find all kinds of things. And then it's like, how can I feel like this and still, how can I not have symptoms? How can I feel good and still have some crazy bad stuff going on? That's where we've got to understand the principles behind what our feelings are. So I want to do a little bit of time in explaining symptoms and what they are. So let's put everybody on a number line, somewhere going from 0 to 100, with 100 being perfect, 0 being death. So everybody fits on that chart at some point. So I have to do a little bit of a caveat. It is impossible to hit 100% function in our bodies. Our bodies are unable to hit 100%. We don't live in a perfect world. We don't have perfect people. We don't have perfect food, clothing, or air. So all of these things around us, we don't live in a perfect system. So if our body is in that system, it can't be 100%. We can hit function levels between 80 and 90%. So a person who functions between 80 and 90% is a person who feels good, who does all kinds of things. Their body heals very quickly. That's what we like to be at, somewhere around that 80 to 90 mark. Here's the caveat. We have to lose 60% of our function before we ever have any feelings or any symptoms. Literally, we have to go from 80, 90, 100, wherever we are, down below 40% function before our body ever triggers a symptom. That doesn't make sense to some people, so let me kind of dig into it just a little bit. You've heard of the person that was healthy, doing all kinds of stuff, and then the next day had a heart attack. My question was the person's heart perfect the day before? No, it had decreased until it got below 40%. And a heart attack is a symptom of heart disease. The symptom showed up before we ever knew that the heart disease was there. It took that heart years and years and years to develop the cardiovascular disease that goes with it. But it was the instant. The person never felt anything prior to the heart attack. That was their first symptom that came from that. So again, when we start to feel stuff, that means our symptoms that means our function of our body is below 40%. The other one that I like to use is the person that goes into the doc to have some blood tests, and the doc goes, "Ooh, sorry, you have some cancer. You've got about 6 weeks to live." And the person goes, "Doc, I feel fine. How can I have cancer, this disease, and never know it?" Well, our organs don't have receptors that let us know things are going on. It's not a bad thing. People think that's horrible, but it's not. If we had symptoms when we didn't feel good, we would never leave the house. We would always feel that. So our body has to go through this series of decrease over years. And then once we hit that magic number, and again, it's not just exactly 40, it may be 42, maybe 35, but we have to lose a big percentage of our function before we ever know anything is wrong with us. Again, not a bad thing, or we would never leave the house. So what we like to do is to understand that process, that even though I feel good, it doesn't mean all of my internal organs are healthy and doing what they should.
What are the most important tests that you run that most conventional doctors don't include?
It's a little bit more than just what we're running. Okay. So we all have panels that give us an insight of what this system is doing. And here's one of the big problems in my opinion, in where medicine has gotten it wrong, is that we have specialized. Doctors go into medical school, they learn everything about everything that's going on, and then they're going to specialize in their field. This is crazy, but this is true. We have specialized medicine so much that there is a right thumb surgeon and a left thumb surgeon. I'm not kidding. It's like if you have a right thumb problem and you go to a left hand guy, he's going to send you to the right hand guy. That's how specialized we've become, is because we can specialize in one thing and that's all we look at. So you have a neurologist. A neurologist is really concerned about how the brain and the neurons are doing. That doesn't mean a whole lot to a cardiologist that's just looking at the heart, or a pulmonologist who's just looking at the lungs, or a podiatrist who's just looking at the feet. Yes, we know all of these things, but this is our niche. This is where we specialize. So when you go into a general practitioner, they're going to run a few little tests and they're going to get an idea of what's going on in some of the systems of the body. This is the problem, is that how insurance works is that insurance will not do a full panel. If you have a symptom, if you have a problem, they will allow you to order those labs for that system. And if those come back and you need to do more, they'll pay for those. Here's the difference. In functional medicine, I need to see all of the systems at the same time. So I do a fairly large blood panel that is going to look at all of the organs, some of the hormones. It's going to see the general health of all of the systems, not just that specific part of what we're looking at. So the question comes up is, what labs are specific? I have very rarely had any doctor run insulin. When we're checking blood sugar, we're going to look at glucose, and we're going to look at this thing called the hemoglobin A1C. And sometimes they don't even do the A1C. If your blood glucose level hits a certain mark, they say it's fine. And you can have a fairly good blood sugar level and your A1C be out of place. And the A1C is the number where we determine if somebody is hypoglycemic, pre-diabetic, or diabetic. Depending on what that number is where we put them in the chart. But you can have a completely fine A1C and they will say, you're fine, there's no problem. But if you don't look at insulin, insulin is the predictor. It is insulin resistance that drives the different diseases that come with the sugar rate. Diabetes is one of the problems of insulin resistance. And I have yet to pull medical records from another patient of mine and see that they ran insulin. They just never run it. It's a simple test. It doesn't take much. And that number tells me where the health of your body is going. So if you're doing blood work, make sure your doctor is running at least insulin. We want to see that number. I like to keep insulin less than 5. When it goes above it, let me back up just a little bit when it comes to insulin. Insulin is a hormone that comes from the pancreas. Its job is to get sugar out of the blood. We eat food, we convert food into glucose, we put the glucose into our bloodstream takes it to our cells. We want sugar in the cells. We want glucose. It's not bad. We want it inside the cell because we can take that glucose and we can make energy with that. So we eat food, we convert it into glucose, we put the glucose inside the cell and have energy. Normal system, the way we want it. So glucose itself isn't bad. Now, if glucose stays in the blood vessels, that's when we're going to get a problem. We don't want free-floating glucose in the blood. That can lead to all kinds of nasty problems, diabetes, cardiovascular, stroke, all those things that come into play. So insulin's job is a hormone, again, released from the pancreas that goes to the cell door, and insulin has a key that fits into the door. It opens up the cell. It takes the sugar that's in the blood, puts it inside the cell, closes the door, and it goes to the next cell. So insulin's job is to get rid of sugar in the blood vessels and get it where it needs to go, deliver it to home. That's insulin's job. Okay, it should be less than 5. When we do a blood test of insulin on a 12-hour fast, we should see insulin less than 5. So if it's at a 10, what that means is that your pancreas is working double the amount of time to try to get the sugar out of there. If it's at 15, that's 3 times. They're not even going to say a word about insulin until it's above 20. And when it's above 20, that's literally your pancreas is working 4 times as hard as it should, normal, to get the job done. We're already at a really bad place of that. So insulin is one of those key numbers that most doctors never even look at. Another one that comes up on what labs to run is the thyroid. Thyroid's a big, big deal. Every single cell in your body has to have thyroid, or what we call T3. So T3 attaches to the nucleus of a cell, and when that thyroid hormone attaches to the nucleus of a cell, that's what turns the engine of the cell on. This is about metabolism, and people have probably heard, I have a sluggish metabolism, I must have hypothyroid. It's exactly what it is. So thyroid attaches to the nucleus, that turns the engine on. So when we do a normal blood test, or you go to your doctor and they run a panel, they're going to look at a blood test called TSH. That is not thyroid hormone. That stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. It comes from the pituitary, which is located in the brain, and the brain basically sends TSH, the pituitary gland sends TSH down to your thyroid and says, hey, things are slowing down. Can you help out? We need some more thyroid. And then the thyroid makes a substance called T3 and T4. It's T3 that's the active, T4 is inactive. And we need that T3. But TSH is just literally telling the thyroid we need more. So when you go to your normal doctor and your TSH is good, we like to keep it between 1 and 3. Functionally, we like to keep it between 1 and 3. They will let it get down to 0.4 on TSH before they say you have a problem. If it's less than 1, you have a problem in that. But they're going to wait until it's at 0.4. So that TSH comes from the pituitary, tells the thyroid to do that. And if that number is good, they say your thyroid health is fine. Okay. I do a full panel. There's about 5 different things that I'm looking at. TSH is one of them, but I'm going to look at what's called T3 uptake. That's the important one. We're going to look at T4. We're going to look at T7. We're going to look at a full panel of the thyroid so that we understand, because people can have a perfect TSH and still be hypothyroid. That's when T3, that is the one that has to get inside the cell and be uptake into that so that we can turn the mechanisms on. So a doctor that's not looking at T3 uptake really doesn't understand or know what the health of that thyroid is. We have to see that number. We like to say T3 uptake 31 is the perfect number for that. If that number goes less than 27, you are hypothyroid. 27 or below 27 is hypothyroid. And I see people that they just came back from their doctor, they did blood work, they said their thyroid was fine. Now they sit down with me, and I had a lady just yesterday that was at a 22. Should be 31, she was at a 22. Incredibly hypothyroid. You can't understand why she doesn't have energy. Okay, because her doctor said her TSH was fine. She didn't have thyroid problems. Again, we have to know the numbers. We have to see where they go to. So again, when we're looking at labs, it's adding those right labs to it. Insulin, T3 uptake. Most doctors don't give us all of the inflammatory markers. Inflammation is the driving force for all chronic degenerative disease. You cannot get cardiovascular without inflammation. You can't get cancer. You can't get diabetes without inflammation. Inflammation doesn't cause it, but it allows it to happen. Inflammation is the important thing. In our world, we are inflamed. That's why most people hurt. That's what causes most issues from happening. So knowing what our inflammation numbers are is really important, and there's a lot of them. And most panels that I look at coming from other doctors don't have all of them. They may look at 1 or 2 of them, but there are other ones that we need to see what systems of the body are inflamed. So when it comes to understanding and determining health, you need a full panel. And like I say, functional doctors know this. We've been doing this for years. I've been in this business for 30 years now. And so we have understood the process of looking at the body, not just looking at the disease. There is, I say it this way all the time. Blood does not lie. It's either in there or it's not. So when we're trying to determine what's going on with somebody, you need somebody that can look at blood and understand the underlying effects, not just pathology. That's what most doctors are looking for, is pathology. If your number is at this level, you have X disease. Here's the protocol for that. What a functional doc, what I'm looking for is finding those systems that are leading to it. Do you have insulin resistance? Do you have some hypothyroid? Is the thyroid sluggish? Is there some inflammation things that are happening? What's your gut look like? Most people don't even know what an anion gap is, but it's a big number that tells me how well your stomach is digesting. What is the quality of acid? And so when people start to get heartburn, they start to get a little reflux, they start to get GERD, their doctor puts them on what's called a PPI, a proton pump inhibitor. Tums, Rolaids, Prevacid, omeprazole, all of those things are antacids. And you take them and the heartburn goes away. It's a wonderful thing. But they're not understanding the long-term effects of that. What winds up happening is you're weakening your acid in your stomach so you can digest food well. And that, when you've been on those things for a long time, periods of years, then you're destroying the gut. And actual problem is not that you have too much acid. It's a problem that you don't have a strong enough acid. So we want the stomach acid to be really, really, really strong. And when the anion gap, again, don't get caught up in the names and the numbers of this stuff, but the anion gap lets me know how strong or how good a quality of acid you have. And so those are some of the numbers that we look at as functional doctors that most doctors don't run. And again, it's not because doctors are bad. These people want to help you. That's what we sign up for. We sign a Hippocratic oath to say we want to help people get healthy. And it's just the systems that we're caught in. I can't force the insurance company. I can't force the pharmaceutical companies to follow my pathways. They determine to us what we do. In that. So it's not, again, not your doctor's fault. Don't go get mad at your doctor, get mad at the bureaucracy of all of this stuff.
And if somebody wants, comprehensive blood work, Dr. Hicks, what should they ask their doctor for? Or do they need to go to a functional medicine practitioner?
Again, my opinion, you need to go to a functional doctor. That's where it is, because again, doctors aren't bad people. They're just caught into the system. They can't run these tests with that. So you want to find someone like me, a functional doctor that has spent their life understanding the blood work, making sure what's going on with that. Functional medicine is looking at those things. The blood, again, does not lie. It's either there or not. So find somebody that understands how blood works, because I will find all kinds of problems in people before they ever had that first symptom. And we can divert that so that they never get the disease. And that's what health is. It's not getting a disease and trying to treat it. It's about never getting the disease. And the body's designed to do that. You just got to have consistency and compliance and following the rules.
And talk about that word disease. You've talked about this a few times with me. I follow all your videos. I think it's outstanding. Tell everybody what that word actually means.
All right. The word disease, D-I-S-E-A-S-E, we think of as a bad thing, as something that has happened to us. We have a long list of named diseases. And the way our scientific community works, the way the medicine works, is once we label you with a X disease, you have diabetes, then we have standard of care, SOC, the standard of care, the way that we treat these things. So the standard of care is when somebody has diabetes, first thing we're going to do, put you on metformin. Metformin is what allows your insulin to work better to get rid of the sugar. So again, that is the named disease, diabetes, and the protocol that follows that. Okay. Here's where I want to break down the word disease a little bit. The word disease comes from the root word ease, E-A-S-E, meaning to be at ease, and a prefix D-I-S. So the word disease literally means your body is not at ease. It's not something, it is determining what's happening with you. So again, when we can understand that disease is not the entity, disease is not the problem, and that the word disease literally means your body is not at ease. And when the body is not at ease, eventually we're going to have a labeled, named problem with the body. Functional medicine comes in and looks at why is the body not at ease? What is going on? And how can we get the body to work like it should? So we never get that named disease process.
Outstanding. I'm just, you're a Christian, and that is something that is super important to you, to me, to your family. When you're talking about all of this, and you talk about disease, and you talk about compliance and consistency, like these things for me as a pastor, and I'm like, there are so many sermons in there. I mean, just like so good. If I was still in the church, I would have you up on the stage and we would be talking about these things, and then we would apply it to the body of Christ. Is there any way that you could encourage the Christian out there, or someone who doesn't, walk with the Lord? How does this tie together?
I'm going to go into a couple of different steps in that. A pastor of a church is a shepherd of the flock. I mean, if you've read the Bible, if you know anything about this, that's kind of where we think as a pastor. As a pastor helps people with spiritual health. That's their job. Okay. as a functional doctor, my goal is a pastor. That's the way I see it. This is my mission in life. I absolutely love this stuff. I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in my life because I kind of get giddy about this. And, I'm not that I'm giddy about somebody's not being healthy. It's just that God has given me the gift of understanding what's going on. So, as a functional doctor, I am the pastor over somebody's physical health. And here's where most people lose it, myself included with this. And I'll give you a little bit of a background. When I was in high school, I grew up going to church. I grew up in a very Christian environment, if you will. So I didn't know there was anything other than that. But when I got into high school, I could really care less about church. I could care less about those things. I cared about my body. I mean, I was a young teen. I wanted no body fat. I wanted to play sports. I played football and basketball. I was in the gym. I was lifting weights. All I really cared about was my physique. Yes, it was vanity. But in high school, that's all I cared about was my body. When I got into school and you have to grow up and you sort of like, man, I've got to become a man. I got to do something different. That's when my body or my mind started shifting towards how can I help people? What's my mission? What do I want to do? And that's where I fell into the medical aspect of healing people with that. And so when I went to med school, all I cared about was my brain. I want more information. I'm a curious person by nature, and I need to know why things work. I spent extra hours in gross lab. I wanted to cut an eyeball in half and see what's inside of there. Don't think of me bad. It's just I have to know how things work. So I spent a lot of extra time in gross lab dissecting the liver, the nervous system. We cut the top of the head off and pulled the brain and spinal cord out. And I got to physically touch that. I got to look at it, and it was incredible to me. I just cared about my mind. I could care less about my body. I got fat when I was in medical school. I was eating horrible food. I didn't feel good. The stress of school was insane, and my health plummeted. Probably the worst health of my life is when I was in med school. It's like all I cared about was information. I would drink coffee from 6 a.m. to midnight and stay up and read and read. All I cared about was getting information. I want information. I didn't care about God at the time. I didn't care about my body, or didn't care about going to church and those kind of things. I just cared about information that went with that. Once I graduated and got married and had children, and then it's like, oh my gosh, there's more to life than just information. There's more to life than just being in a gym. And then that's when I started really going back to my roots that my parents gave me of growing up, of the Christian model of what it was. And that's where I found out that health isn't just one thing. It is body, mind, and spirit. You have to have balance. We call health being what's called being homeostasis is where it is, where we balance. Homeostasis is the balancing of all of these things together. And when it always comes down, there's threes and everything. I won't get into numerology and all the stuff that I spend a lot of time looking at, but there's important things that come into it. It's always about three different things. It is body, mind, and spirit. You cannot have true health unless you've balanced all of those. So we have pastors for our spiritual health. We have exercise physiologists to get our bodies in place. And we have functional doctors to make sure the blood systems are doing what they're supposed to do. So that's kind of how it ties in with my Christian faith and how it means to my body is let's balance all of those things. And when something is in balance, it lasts.
So great. So great. And I'm so thankful that that is what you stand for. It's amazing and honors the Lord, and it's outstanding. So Dr. Hicks, as we come to a close here, what if somebody wants to get this comprehensive blood work that you speak of, and have it interpreted by somebody like you, especially by you, like if it's me, I'm watching this, well, actually, yeah, answer that question. And then I would love for you to answer the question, like, when should I get that done? And I know we kind of talked about that, but I'm thinking like for myself, even though I'm feeling good, I need to go ahead and do that. And then do I follow up with that? So how do I do it? And then when should I come to you?
Okay, let me give you the process. Anybody anywhere can do blood work. I do telemed for all the states in the United States. So I'm affiliated with LabCorp, and LabCorp has places everywhere. And so the only thing that you need to do is contact my website, bodyworksfunctional.com. And bodyworks, the works is spelled with an X, not a K. So bodyworksfunctional.com. And you can order labs from that. I can do a comprehensive. So that's the first step, is like saying, I would like to know my numbers. Where am I starting in that? So anybody can contact that website and sign up and do get a blood lab request. And what happens with that is, once you say you want to do it, then I will email you a request form to LabCorp. You find a LabCorp that's near you, you go do it. Once that's done, 2 days later, I literally have the blood work back. And I can either, if you're in town, I can meet you face to face. If you're out of town, we can do Zoom calls. And we can find that first step of what's going on. Whether you feel good, you feel bad, whatever, everybody needs to know where their numbers are. Blood, again, blood does not lie. It's either there or it's not. You just need somebody to be able to look at the blood and to say, hey, this is what it means.
And how and when should I do that? When should I contact you when I'm sick?
Website's open 24/7. It's there. So, like you say, as a kid, it's not as important. Your body hasn't been around long enough. Number one, if you have symptoms, you need blood work now, today. Figure out what the symptom is. Let's not get it back. And that's even in our current medical world, is if you catch stuff early, it's always better than waiting until it's bad. So if somebody's having some symptoms, find out what's causing it. People say, oh, I have headaches, and I take an aspirin and the headache goes away. Yep, that's what its job, that's what it's designed to do. But the headache wasn't because you had a lack of aspirin in your body. There is a reason why your body has a headache. Is there a sensitivity to something? Do you have high blood pressure? There's a lot of things that cause headaches, but it is not lack of aspirin. And that's what we typically do in America is, oh, it's not that bad. I'm just going to take a few of these things, or they'll go get a massage. They'll go get an IV. They'll go do something that makes them feel better. And it's like, I must be healthy again. Not the case. You never got to the core issue. Blood is going to find that core issue to find out why you're having headaches. Little background on that, and I'll try to speed it up. But that was what got me into chiropractic. And the first thing is, I messed my knee up at a football game. And for whatever reason, my parents took me to the chiropractor for that. And not only did he work on my knee, but he started working on my spine. What I didn't tell him is that I had massive headaches all of the time. I mean, it was something. And I just thought, I'm using my head as a spear in football, cracking other helmets, and that's why I have headaches all the time. But he started not working just on my knee, but on my full spine. And then after we were finished with working on my knee, I realized I never had headaches again. I'm like, whoa. And then it was, A plus B equals C thing. And it's like, oh, and I told him, he's like, man, I don't have headaches. And he goes, I know. I've been working on that. I'm like, oh, everything's tied together. So I didn't wait until my headaches were debilitating before I ever did something about it. I got to the core issue. So now I don't need the aspirin. I don't get headaches that come from that. So that's kind of the thing. Who needs to do blood work? If you're having symptoms, have a functional doctor, have myself do a blood work. Let's find out the core issues. Let's catch it before it ever becomes a named disease process. Typically, this is where I like people to go. If somebody is in decent health, we've looked at their blood, there's no red flags or anything, people need to get their blood work done once per year. Disease is not something that happens overnight. It takes a really long time to develop. And if you do your blood work, a full panel looking at all the systems through a functional doctor, then we can find those things before they become a problem. So if you do, I typically do mine at the end of the year or the 1st of January. I'll check my blood and I'll say, my liver enzymes are a little bit high here. Probably should let go of some of the fast food, and I will clean myself up those first 3 months. And then the whole key for me is I'm never going to allow the pathway of my body to become disease before I do something about it. So when I'm in a plan, I'm doing blood work every 4 weeks. I need to know if I'm making a change. If after we're done with the plan, if somebody has some problems, maybe every quarter they should do a blood work. If somebody is clipping along like they should, but still has some issues, maybe every 6 months. Healthy person with no problems that has had a previous blood work looked at by a functional doc once a year is when I want to see it.
That's perfect. That's really, really good. And so if you're watching this right now, I encourage you to get your blood work done. I mean, everything that you just said is so powerful. And personally, this guy is a friend. He knows what he's talking about. He loves to, I mean, you just heard him say he feels like his calling in life is to help people be more healthy. I mean, he owns 2 IV Nutritions in Tulsa. He has a nationwide functional medicine clinic and is just willing to do whatever it takes to help people. And so, man, Dr. Hicks, thank you so much. We're really whoever's watching this, I just pray that you you will reach out and this could truly save your life. Now, before, so I'll cut it there. Now, I'm gonna all right, Dr. Hicks, thank you so much. I want you to share something that what is something right now that, no one's really thinking about it, but it's something you're thinking about. You used an example earlier when we were talking. You don't have to use this one about WD-40. It blew my mind. So, what actually go with that because y'all, his chair was squeaking, and I said for the next one, you might want to get some WD-40. But he did something else, which was absolutely insane. So tell us really quick what happened.
For whatever reason, my brain holds on to weird information. I've done some studies on myself, and I have what there's a thing called a flag page that kind of determines how does your brain work. And the top thing is I am a curious person. I need to know why. I don't know how bad I hurt my parents growing up, but I was that kid. Why, mom? Why, dad? Why? Why? And you finally get to the point because I said so of that. I was that kid. I need to understand the reason why things are there. My brain will not let it go. I'm like a dog on a bone. I have to understand why things do what they do. So my brain always holds on to stuff. And so Michael and I were making this podcast, and my square was squeaky. I didn't even notice it because I was focused in on what was happening. And I said, how'd it go? And he goes, well, your chair needs some WD-40. And I said, give me a minute. And I went through my office, and I carry WD-40 with me. It's in my truck, but I had to take my truck into the mechanic for some service work to be done today. So I don't even have that. I didn't have any WD-40 at this office. And I'm like thinking to myself, what can I do? It's squeaking. I need to do something. And then in my brain, it clicks. What is WD-40? And I don't know if everybody knows this, but WD-40 is fish oil. That's what it's made up of.
Great.
And the reason that it's named WD-40 is because they tried 39 different things that didn't work. It was the 40th recipe of WD-40. That's where they got their name. It is literally fish oil. It is actually edible. People don't realize that, but you can clean stuff with it. It is fish oil is what it is. Those omegas that we need. So that's what WD-40 is. And that's why it takes squeaks away is because it's an oil. So I'm running through my office. I don't have any WD-40 here. And then I think to myself, I need something that has oil. So not to mention a company, but I have this stuff that is called liposomal methylzor. It is a liposomal form of B vitamins. It's a B complex in a liposomal form. And what liposomes are fats. We put the B vitamins inside an amino acid envelope that's full of fats. It is what a cell wall is made of. So there are lipids, there are fats within that make up the liposomal. So I thought to myself, hey, if I don't have WD-40, I've got some liposomal B vitamins. And so I flipped my chair upside down and squirted liposomal B vitamins on my chair to get the thing done.
I love it. There you go.
That's a little entrance into my brain and how it works.
I love it. So is fish oil like WD-40 for your joints or what? Just real quick into that.
Yeah, I don't say cut a hole in your knee and squirt WD-40 in it. That's not what I'm saying. Don't go down that path.
Don't drink WD-40.
I'm not telling you to take it orally. It's not designed for that. But the mentality behind it is that. That's the omega-3s and 6s. Those are the things that lubricate your joints and do that. So those are one of the key factors when people do hurt. Maybe they're not, fats are really hard to absorb. That's why we have a gallbladder is that oil and water don't mix. So the gallbladder holds bile salts. And so when we get enough fat into our stomach, the gallbladder squeezes bile salts so that we can emulsify those fats. So it can be some digestive issues that are causing that. But a lot of people in today's society aren't getting enough of the omegas. Omegas are great for cardiovascular health. There's so many good things that they do. So making sure that we're taking some of those omegas can literally lubricate your joints.
That's so good. Well, Dr. Hicks, thank you so much. And make sure that nobody is going to digest any WD-40. Go get some fish oil and all the things. So thank you, sir.